Good morning.
Good morning. Hang on.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard, who come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight that symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty.
Real clear years ago in the swamps of South Georgia. Came pulling crossman in my hands, all I needed to be growed up. Homemade ice cream and barbecue and the family on Friday nights. 10-lane ramp on Saturday, right before the morning light. Came a time I was old enough and I learned about the gun. And every night at supper time I answered to what I'd done. Today, look now, the way it used to be. They got no respect and no cold steel, just games on TV. I'm burning hell before I sell my rights away from me. It's high time we embrace the tool that keeps all men free.
Good morning, Revolution Radio listeners. The sun is rising across this great United States, and that means straight from the heart of Texas. It is time for Clayton Douglas, the Free American. Take it away, Clayton.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. And my guest today is Ed Snook with US Observer. And before I get to that, before I get to Ed, though, I just attended a resurrection service at my church, the Way Church. That was yesterday, and it was a great meeting. But I came across this story that I thought I'd share with you in lieu of the day today. In Florida, an atheist created a case against Easter and Passover holy days. He hired an attorney to bring a discrimination case against Christians and Jews and observances of their holy days, the argument that it was unfair that atheists had no such recognized day. Case was brought before a judge, and after listening to the passionate presentation by the lawyer, the judge banged his gavel, declaring, "Case dismissed." The lawyer immediately stood and objected to the ruling, saying, "Your Honor, how can you possibly dismiss this case? The Christians have Christmas, Easter, and others. The Jews have Passover, Yom Kippur, and Hanukkah. Yet my client and all the other atheists have no such holidays." The judge leaned forward in his chair, saying, "But you do. Your client, counselor, is woefully ignorant The lawyer said, Your Honor, we are unaware of any special observances or holiday for atheists. The judge said the calendar says April 1st is April Fool's Day. Psalm 14:1 states that the fool says in his heart there is no God. Thus, it is the opinion of this court that if your client says there is no God, therefore he is a fool. Therefore, April 1st is his day. Court adjourned. Hello, Ed Snook. How are you, sir?
Very good, Clay. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Ed, tell me about US Observers. Now, I've got your site up here, and it basically states that the U.S. Observer believes in our country, our Constitution, and the public right to adequate representation. U.S. Observer is designed to keep the innocent free, the public informed, and our form of government controlled by the people. Tell me about the U.S. Observer. How did you get started? You're up in Rogue River or Grants Pass, Oregon. Been through there many times. How did it get started?
Boy, way back in the day, Clay, before the militias got going and this and that, I had an investigative business in Portland, Oregon. And it was as simple as people would hire me to investigate dog bite case. I trained attack dogs. They'd hire me for dog bite cases. I wrote a little bit for Dog World magazine. Anyway, a gal hired me to her Rottweilers had been charged with biting a little girl up pretty bad, about tore her leg off. I went out and temperament tested the dogs on video at the animal control and found that they couldn't have bitten anybody. They were perfectly trained dogs. They were just non-biters. They'd had the bite taken out of them. And anyway, we videoed it, took it into court, and the attorney and I said, it's an open and shut case. We were just going through the motions to get it over with. And at the end of the hearing, the judge found them guilty and sentenced them to death. He said, this crooked bastard said, I wouldn't own a Rottweiler, a Doberman Pinscher, or a German Shepherd. I won't even let them around my property with my grandchildren. And I turned deep red, got up and went back to my office and wrote him a scathing letter, told him that his career was over, and I sent my investigators to the courthouse, and I said, I want to know everything about this guy, go through every record you can find on him. And I started getting on talk radio. I was on the I probably did 100 of the old Chuck Stewart shows up at Portland State University, and finally got a group called Liberty Network going, and I just got, I just got bathed in all this patriotism, and this is probably about 28, 30 years ago, I think. And so I spent the next 10 years, for me, the radio and the TV, it wasn't completing what I had envisioned it. And after a year or so, I was having people come to me about, children's services, just rampant. People stealing people's children, their property. I got heavily into property rights with Dick Carver and some guys down in Nye County, Nevada. And I just got engulfed in the patriot world, I guess. And finally, when I was broke and all my Republican corporate sponsors had cut me off for attacking a Republican senator, it was either start charging or go home. So I right during that time, sometime around 10 years, I spent trying to find 10 years trying to find something that would work. And I found was just about ready to go back making good money like I used to. And an old friend said, Ed, why don't you try a newspaper? I tried the newspaper, and it did everything I wanted it. The things that were missing, it did. So I started the Oregon Observer, and it's since evolved. We do most of our work outside of Oregon now, so the guys finally worked on me to where I would change the name to the US Observer. There you go.
All right. Now, over this last week, a couple of weeks ago, I started doing a new radio show, this 2-hour show on Revolution Radio. And but I've been publishing the Free American for years. Published the Free American for years till they tried to kill me. I think I might have possibly made a mistake by referring to 9/11 as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning. But I pulled into this new story here. I was introduced to a lady by the name of Deb Swan, who was supposedly working for Charles Dyer. Now, Charles Dyer was the 4th of July patriot. He broadcast and recorded a lot of patriotic information on YouTube. And then suddenly the government came after him, and I believe they tried to get him for a rocket launcher or grenade launcher. And he was found not guilty on that. And then suddenly another story popped up. Evidently, his 7-year-old daughter was accusing him of rape. Now, how would a 7-year-old even know that term? I find that a little suspicious, especially because she was, I believe, in the care of her mother, who had divorced him. Now, Deb Swan approached me, and I actually met Deb Swan down in Corpus Christi and spent 2 days with her, let her stay in a spare bedroom in my friend's house that I was down in Corpus meeting. And there was something wrong. There was something wrong with it. Now, she appeared on my show, and that show is recorded up there. But she also informed me that she had a fiance by the name of Chris Mortensen, and she and Chris had provided the money to hire US Observer, to investigate and try to clear Charles Dyer. Now, that all sounds really, worthy and nice and good, but I felt something was wrong. The lady that I'd gone down to Corpus to see, she felt something was wrong because Deb Swan had informed her, well, she was going to move me in with her somehow. And so we just kind of sat back and watched what happened. And then I came across your story after Deb Swan started telling me how you were working for the FBI, along with a gentleman by the name of Rick Light, who's been on my show many times, who is doing something similar to what I did 20 years ago. You mentioned the militia. ADL, Southern Poverty Law, gives me credit for starting the militias in New Mexico and with my magazine, Free American. And actually, they were right about, semi-right. I did start the militias. I did help start the militias in New Mexico. But I did it in the governor's office, so it wasn't exactly the terrorist organization the ADL, Southern Poverty Law, tried to make it out to be. I'll let you take it over from there. What, you're working, is you and Rick Light, all these patriots working for the FBI, or is something wrong with Deborah Swan?
I work with anybody I can work with to get innocent charges dropped. I mean, I I know a lot of FBI agents that I've gotten information from. I don't know Rick Light. I've heard a lot about him. Never had the pleasure to meet him yet. In the way that Deborah Swan is saying I work with the FBI, I certainly don't. You sure as hell couldn't publish what I publish and come up with the idea that I work with the FBI when we're getting rid of IRS agents and attorneys and getting the IRS attorneys disbarred and nailing judges. And you know, I think we've won just about 4,200 cases since the paper got going about 22 years ago, and so that's kind of nonsense. I don't know of anybody, including Spence or anyone else, that's helped 4,200 people in their career. And we've done everything from murder to a traffic ticket, lots of rape, kidnap, racketeering, tax evasion cases. People can go read my website. And anyway, back to Swan and her how she came to be around my world. She called me one day and told me probably a similar story that she told you about. This Charles Dyer sent me some videos. This was back in the end of 11, maybe into the first of 2012. In fact, I think she came way back in 2011 and told me she had to have my help. She'd looked into my background, and I was the only guy that could help Charles Dyer. I told her what I'd charge her, and she was in Florida at the time, running around and said the FBI was following her. And I said, listen, I don't care about that. Her phone was bugged, all this stuff. I said, what I have to say to you on the phone, I want the FBI to hear. So, you know, there's no conspiracy in what I'm doing. I'm out after bad people, and so anyway, that went on for probably on and off for 4, 5, 6 months. I'd get a call every once in a while. She'd have I'm going to be able to get your money. I need to get you on, and all the time trying to get me sucked into that case for the Dyer case, pro bono or for nothing. And it was, from what she'd told me, it was a huge deal, and the FBI was out to get Charles. Just pretty wild stories, but very interesting. And I finally concluded that she was probably a lunatic. And at one point, I started just, getting rid of her. I stopped talking to her because it was the same old, everybody's after me, my phone's tapped. It was, as I look back now, it was just lunacy. Well, one day I get a call from a guy in Afghanistan, a soldier named Chris Mortensen, who says that he's working with Deb Swan and wants to hire me to save this brother of his who's locked up, this ex-Marine. And I already knew everything from Swan that she told me. So anyway, long story short, I tell Mortensen somebody's going to have to sign a contract with me and pay me a retainer. Deborah Swan's signed the contract. He sent me 2 checks from Afghanistan and hired me. And boy, oh boy, then it was Deborah Swan moved immediately right into my world, wanted to help with the investigation, and I told her just to relax and let me do what I do and figure it out. I had to learn the case, and she called me by this time, probably a month had went by or so, and by this time I had got to know Dyer's mother, and I brought one of my investigators from Colorado in on the case to help me, and he was the primary in the case. So he was going over paperwork, and we tried to get Deborah Swan to send us, like the indictments, all the paperwork we needed to get the facts of the rape case. Is what I took on. I didn't. He had already gotten the gun charge dismissed, or I guess he got it. It was dismissed shortly after we got involved. But all she would send us, the bulk of what she was sending us, were these videos and all kinds of different stuff that we didn't really need on conspiracies and how the FBI had set Charles up and trying to get him for a arson fire and this and that, and so finally one weekend Swan called me. I think it was on a Friday, if I remember right, and she caught me when I leave my office. I transfer the main line to my cell phone, and she caught me, and I said, "Hey Debbie, how are you?" And she said, "Hello." And she kept saying hello and getting madder and madder as she talked. And I'm sitting there, I can hear her fine, and I'm saying hello. Well, apparently she was having a breakdown or something, or else she just couldn't hear me. And she said, "You SOB, you're not going to hang up on me." And all of a sudden, click. So I tried calling her back 2 or 3 times that weekend, and no answer. Left her a message. And so Monday, I called up Lauren, my investigator in Colorado, and I said, "Deborah Swan is no longer associated with this investigation. She's dropped," which is covered in my contract. She has to agree that I can drop her at any time, the client. The focus of the investigation was regarding alleged false criminal charges against Charles Allen Dyer. So I dropped her as a client. Charles's mother, Janet, signed a contract becoming my new client. And that's, you understand, for reasons of, the state wants to charge me with investigating without a license. I need a very explicit contract stating what I'm doing and just to cover what we accomplish here. So anyway, as time went on, I'd get a call every once in a while from her and from Mortensen. And in fact, I got one right off the bat from Mortensen asking me what was wrong, why was I doing this to Deb? And I told him the story, and I said, "I'm not going to have anything more to do with her." And he says, "Well, don't you believe in this government conspiracy?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, the government was behind 9/11 and this and that, and that." And I said, "Man, you better watch what you're saying. You're in our military. That's not too safe for you to say things like that." And I said, "Beyond that, I'm not investigating 9/11. My concern is Charles Dyer. He's locked up, and a whole bunch of people are claiming he's innocent." Now, and I tried to reason with Chris a number of times. At first, he accepted it, and he says, "Okay." He says, "So you're continuing?" And I said, "We sure are. We're going to be going out to Oklahoma and getting to the bottom of a lot of things in Charles's case." So and I can see now, looking back, that Deb was pushing him to call me, because it wasn't long he called me again and wanted to argue about Deb and Deborah Swan, and I finally started hanging up on him. I'd try and reason with him for 10 seconds, and I just, hell with you, I'm not wasting my time talking to you anymore. Finally told him not to call me, and it'd always be a few weeks, he'd call back, and anyway, then it started. One day I got a complaint from the Oregon Department of Justice, where Deborah Swan and Mortensen, she filed his for him, I've since found out, but they both filed a complaint against me. And I'd just gotten back from, not too long before this, I'd just gotten back from Oklahoma, I believe. We went out there and spent a week getting next to our targets, the ones we had to get to resolve Charles's case and get the truth, from the daughter. And it was a miraculous trip. We had no trouble getting done what we planned, and so all of a sudden I'm doing this, and pretty much at this point working pro bono. The attorneys had already raked them financially, so like a lot of our cases, we don't get past the retainer. Anyway, all of a sudden I get this demanding deal. They want their $10,000 back, which I'd spent, half again. And so I dispelled the Department of Justice complaint, which wasn't a big deal. I know those people. They know me, all of them there. I've taken them on before, and so I explained the deal to them, and it was they dropped their deal, and then it was the Better Business Bureau. I was turned in, and turned into them, so I got rid of that problem. And I just saw Swan had put out a video about the US Observer with all these, lunatic claims that I'd taken their money and dropped their case, and here I am right in the middle of their case. Well, what they'd done through all their internet activity was they had ruined my work in Oklahoma. I may as well have not even went there. I mean, I could have stayed home, and they just wiped out all that work. All the groundwork was wiped out. So by that time, we'd gotten to know Miss Janet Dyer and Charles's sister Amy, just wonderful gals. And it wasn't a case I could drop. It was something we were going to get to the bottom of. So actually, we started a different direction, and fortunately, we're back to where I believe we can resolve Charles's case, and I think we'd have had him out had it not been for Deborah Swan and Mortensen. I think we would have him. We'd already have him out of jail. But anyway, then moving on with ending up my relationship with those two, I get a call one day here a month and a half ago, maybe a little longer, from a gal, Janella, I think was her name, Mortensen. Real broken English. She's from Panama. Anyway, she identified herself as Miss Chris Mortensen's wife. And as I put in the article, she was in Tacoma, Washington at the base there, and she was claiming she wanted to know about this $10,000. She was telling me they were broke, and I explained what had happened, and she says, "Oh, I see." She said, "This Deborah Swan is bad." She said, then she went on to tell me what Deborah had done to them, that Chris had been sending her money all the time to support her, that Deborah Swan had helped Chris fill out divorce papers to file against her, and she said Swan had even called her and told her to move out of their home, that she was moving into it with Chris. And this is the same gal that represented to you, or Swan, the same gal that represented to you that this was her fiance, I guess.
Yes.
So, unbelievable. So I talked to the gal. I spoke probably an hour and a half all told, and when things escalated a little bit, I told her that she should stay away from them. That if she didn't get Chris away from Swan, that that she could kiss her marriage goodbye, and she was already, according to her, Swan had ruined them financially. So anyway, that's how that went. I had built a good rapport with Mortensen's wife, who she got pretty tough about being able to take care of Chris and Swan. She said, "Hey, I grew up on the streets of Panama, and I'm not going to let this so and so come in here and ruin my life. She'll be, she'd take care of it," is what she told me, which 3 cheers for her. But that's basically what I've done. Then I've always tried to be reasonable, Clay. For years, I've got a clean conscience. When I go destroy a prosecutor or someone, I've always given them a chance not to go there. So I did this with Swan, both Swan and Mortensen. I told them, I said that you're not going to like what happens here. I said, go on with life. Forget you ever knew me. I'm doing what you hired me to do. Just get out of my life. And this is even after their false complaints. And in fact, I think 3 weeks ago, I got a call from Chris again. And all I could conclude is Swan's got something magical about her, with men. I tried to reason with him, and after 2 or 3 times, I hung up, and then he'd call back in a little bit and say, "Listen, you don't know where you're headed. You've got a career in the Army, go have a wonderful life." And I said, I've already, at that point, I had told Swan to remove the video that had lies about the US Observer on it, or I was going to open a file up on her. And anyway, the last call I had with Chris, I'd already opened the file on Swan, which means I had appointed somebody to start compiling information. And I told Chris, I said, "Chris, the hell with you. You both have a file now." She didn't take the video down like I demanded. So now you've both taken me on. I hope you enjoy it. And that's where I'm at with them right now.
Now,
since then,
go ahead.
Since then, we published our first article on them. And as you know, if you've looked at our stuff, Clay, we use the paper. We do an investigation. When we determine someone's innocence, we'll go to a prosecutor, and this is where it comes in with the FBI and my connection to the FBI and prosecutors, U.S. attorneys. I'll go to them. In fact, I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times. I'll go to them and say, "Listen, you're prosecuting an innocent person. You need to get rid of these false charges, or we're going to start publishing on this." And by publishing, I'm basically telling them we're going to ruin their life. So what most people have never understood is that all these crooks in government, they all have private lives. None of them care what goes on inside those offices or their corrupt courtrooms, but they sure as hell care what goes on in public when their neighbors and kids are coming home saying, "Boy, Johnny said that you're a crook, that they won't, because their parents won't let me hang around with me anymore because my dad's locking up innocent people, or my dad did this or that." The court out here in the public is how I've won 4,200 cases, or the threat of that force. Anymore, I call up a prosecutor generally today, and it's far different than it was 15, 20 years ago. I don't have to go through the process of beating the hell out of them. And, generally they listen to reason and they do something. So, we're just in the process of starting to dealing with people on Mortensen's case, or on Dyer's case, which should have happened a year ago, 8-10 months at least, had it not been for Swan. And we just opened a case on Mortensen and Swan, which, before we get done, Charles Dyer will be out of prison, and Swan and Mortensen hopefully will be in prison, and the public will be protected because they're both dangerous. If not in prison, everybody in America will know who they are. So
I put up on my website the threats that Mortensen made to me. I mean, this is after I had no longer said goodbye to Swan, and it was peaceful. I mean, we weren't angry or arguing or anything. I just said I don't want anything to do with you anymore. And I didn't appreciate her wanting to move me. And now this is the way she works. She is an attractive lady, and obviously she got to Mortensen somehow, interfered with his marriage, and she bragged to my female friend who I'd gone down to visit how she was going to move me in. And as soon as I sent her on her way, Mortensen called me, and it's up on my website. You can hear the threats and the MFs and the, we're going to destroy you. We're going to destroy you. For what? Having Deb on my radio show? For trying to get the information out about Charles Dyer, which, by the way, Rick Light has also done, and she was attacking Rick Light the same way she was attacking you, and now they're attacking me that way. You know, I've really asked myself, what and you're right about her being paranoid. I mean, while she was at the house in Corpus, she went outside and came back in and told me somebody stole my cigarettes. I had cigarettes out here. I was out there smoking a cigarette, and somebody stole my cigarette. And there's a car parked down the road. There's some car parked down the road. Yeah, it's a neighborhood. Yeah, cars parked there. Yes. You know, people come and go here. Yes. You know, nobody knows I'm here. Nobody knows you're here. No, so you know, and nobody follows me on a Harley. So there ain't nothing happening here. Just like a paranoid schizophrenic or something. And
I guarantee.
Go ahead.
I guarantee you, we're talking about the same gal, like.
Yes, and you know, I've known a lot of beautiful women in my time. I published magazines for biker magazine for 20 years. I've photographed some of the most beautiful women in the world. They don't have that kind of control over me. But and anytime somebody starts attacking somebody in the Patriot movement, especially somebody like Rick Light that's trying to restart the militias properly as he's done in his county there with the sheriff, and Deborah Swan shows up at his house, at his place there, and then starts attacking him. She shows up at my place and starts attacking me. Are these people just stupid, or is there an agenda here? I've really wondered. You know, I should. It could be the chemtrails. It could be the genetically modified food. It could be, you know, Americans are the most drugged people in the world. I mean, I'm not talking about cocaine, heroin, or methamphetamine. I'm talking about Valium, Luvox, you know, and all these other pharmaceuticals. And that's been happening for as long as I can remember. My mother and grandmother were drug addicts. They went to the doctor every week to get their sleeping pills or their pain medication. What is it? What is it? And we can focus specifically on Dyer, because here's a really beautiful woman, but the behavior here is just totally out of line. I mean, I was certainly more than happy to help with the Dyer case, but because I've been demonized, you know, they've tried to kill me a few times, and certainly tried to destroy me financially. So, but what's in your estimation here? What is this? Is this insanity, or is this an agenda?
You know, I came to the conclusion, and I've got some bits of evidence that would show that Dyer, or that Deborah Swan has, in my opinion at this point, and I'll know for sure when I get done with looking into her, but at this point, I believe she in fact is working for the feds. She got some protection from somebody on a, you know, I haven't confirmed I was told she had some cocaine charges in Texas, and that she got out of prison way earlier than she could legally get out of federal prison. That I'm trying to confirm right now, but looking back and assessing her, I would have no doubt right now that she's working for the feds, and she's been out here. You know, I think it's part that and part that she's just a damn lunatic. I think she's been out here using the Dyer case to feed herself and run around the country and, you know, make whoever she's working for think she's productive, and getting next to Light and these Patriot guys, giving them information, probably got them on the hook as like she does Mortensen, some of them. You know, there are some pretty stupid federal agents, so that's my assessment of her. She's a lunatic, and she's probably got the feds on the hook, and she's using cases like the Dyer case to attempt to promote herself and feed herself. And she's been all over a few times early on when she called me. She was not far from being desperate. So, needing money, and anyway, I guess that's all about. I'll know for sure when I'm done with this, but right now that's my assessment of her.
It's kind of 6 of one and a half dozen of another. I mean, whatever she did, she is going after patriots. I mean, Rick Light is doing something and is working with well-regulated American militias, and yeah, he's doing exactly what Sheriff Richard Mack. You know, he's kind of following along with Sheriff Richard Mack, who's doing the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association. You know, people that won't follow illegal federal laws. But Mortensen, I mean, this guy was absolutely insane, and you can hear it. You can go to my website, freeamerican.com, and look at that and listen to that. I won't even play it because it's so full of obscenities. It's and at the second recording, he wasn't even making sense. It was like he was insane. Did he threaten you too? Did he do that kind of threatening, off of the wall bullshit with you?
You know, he started to. I don't let people go there with me, but he did just write Charles Dyer a 17-page letter that's just exactly what you just described. So Dyer right now will have nothing to do with Swan or Mortensen, and I don't know. I kind of don't go there with people. Once they start in with me, I come down pretty hard on them. So I can't say that Mortensen threatened me or he really didn't. He was headed that way for sure, but he just wrote a real scathing letter to Charles Dyer, who's locked up right now, and it's exactly what you're telling me that he did with you. So yeah,
it's you know, I certainly support our vets, and I'd like to keep you on for a while and go in some other directions. You've been investigating this. You said you've been in the Patriot movement, and you know, the reason I started the militias and the Free American magazine, my magazine, which was nationally distributed up until 2004, when an accident was arranged, and maybe it was just a coincidence, you know, that I had just got a phone call from my son on my AT&T phone the month after George Bush had allowed the NSA to tap everybody's phones, but NSA didn't do any tapping at all. That was subbed out to Amdocs and Converse, two Israeli-based companies, and they were tapping everybody's phones, I guess. And I called home and asked my son, "Where do you need me to go next?" "Well, go down 24th Street to McDowell, turn left, go to the wheel shop. 2 blocks before I got to McDowell, I had an accident." Supposedly an accident. And I was hospitalized. I was on my motorcycle. I was hospitalized for 3 months. Drugged for 3 months. Hospitalized for 4. And that pretty much ended my magazine, ended hard to broadcast when you're drugged for 3 months into oblivion. I got no memory of 3 months in the hospital. So somebody came after me. Somebody was trying to stop me from doing this. Now that's what it looks like. Deb Swan and Martinson are trying to do with Rick Light, and of course they've now threatened me. But what in your investigation? I see what I predicted and what I warned people about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, about NAFTA, about GATT, about the FEMA, and matter of fact, right before my accident, I released my film called True Face of FEMA, where I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting, and we got people. Colonel John Brinkerhoff is lecturing law enforcement in Albuquerque and telling people we're in a war, and the enemy's weak. The enemy doesn't have helicopters. The enemy doesn't have tanks. Doesn't have planes. So the enemy will use unconventional methods, and we have to use unconventional methods. In case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people, because some of them just won't follow orders. Some of us won't line up on the Kmart parking lot to get vaccines for a disease that has just been reinvented, I guess, in the form of smallpox. But I refer to this as a war on the American people. And we are the enemy that they're talking about. It ain't Al-Qaeda. It ain't foreign, in my opinion. I'd like to get your opinion on that. What is happening here? What is, and the courts, as far as you, and you can probably confirm this better than I can, the courts are corrupt. The courts are the Bar Association, and the whole Bar Association thing, the whole lawyer thing, has pretty much co-opted our separation of powers, because we got lawyers in the Supreme Court, we got lawyers in the judicial branch, and we got lawyers infesting Congress. Is this a war on the American people? What's happening?
Well, you know, I've got had a lot of years to watch this, and I was back fighting that stuff in the beginning. I took on a lot of, I'm sure you can remember Dick Carver in the Nye County, Nevada, when they kicked the BLM out. And,
Yes, sir.
And I was right in the middle of all that, you know, publishing on it, but also being involved. And I was back when Troutman and all the guys were making the gun show tours, you know, giving their speeches, and got to know Troutman. In fact, at a home review with Randy Trout and Senator DeCamp years ago in Washington, D.C., a guy that used to put a spotlight, Willis Cardo.
Yes, I know Willis. I know Troutman, everybody. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Pardon? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. I said I know Troutman. I know John DeCamp. And, you know, they're still, I started this whole thing when they murdered this 17 or 22 children at Waco and their parents. I swore I would never sit back and watch something like that happen again without trying to do something. And they're still murdering our children, by the way, all the way up to, from Columbine to Sandy Hook.
Who was what was his name, the singer that was doing all the Patriot music back then?
Carl Klang. Carl Klang, yes, sir.
Carl was a very dear friend. He lived outside of Portland at the time, and I knew his wife and children. We're just very good friends of ours. In fact, on one of those shows, I sang background. Not that I can sing. I think he just did it because we were buddies. But Klein called me here just off another subject. He called me a couple months ago. He happens to be living here in Grants Pass and he's the one that wrote 17 Little Children.
Yes, sir.
And so I was fighting all that and doing, you know, exposing Janet Reno and along with Easy Kid and all the rest of them. And I saw it more as I saw an administrative government taking over the country, and I saw a whole lot of this other stuff as a ruse. I mean, these conspiracies. There was a point, probably, I'm going to guess 15 to 18 years ago, Clay, where I made a conscientious choice to stay away from conspiracies. And that's just for me personally. I have a job to do, and that was fighting bad government when they were abusing someone, and I realized at some point there I couldn't change the world, and obviously nobody listened to us on NAFTA and GATT, and that's already implemented. Hell, this one world order that everybody used to fight, and a lot of the churches were against, that's already been implemented. You know, all the groundwork's already done, and we virtually have one world government. But I made a conscientious decision to stay away from that stuff. I saw it more. I certainly saw what you and DB and the rest of the people I was around. I saw what they were talking about and understood it. It was a fact that these things were going on. But I saw it more as a ruse. I saw the administrative government was
all right, hold on just a second. Stay with me. We got to take a little 2 or 3 minute break here, and we'll be right back.